complete. So we're like, okay. So we were using this, and we were literally taking the spoons of these herbs that he had out of a plastic baggie that, he gets them and he grows them and goes and gets them all and puts them in a plastic baggie. We're taking a spoon. It tastes terrible. It's just absolutely, if anybody's been into Chinese herbs, especially things for the brain and nervous system, most of them taste really bad. I don't know why everything that's good for the brain tastes bad.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is. Anyways, so we were using this stuff, and it's amazing. We feel completely resurrected. We're like, wow, God, I could just feel like I can go again. And we would, just regenerate and hit the next day and the next day and hit all these personal bests. And this is a quantitative report where I'm not just saying that as a money. We're monitoring our neurological activity using state-of-the-art neurofeedback devices, 64 points looking at this. We're monitoring on computers. So it's legitimate. And we would take this and we would see the benefit. So then we're like, God, this stuff is really good for nervous system stress. Right. Would it be okay if you provided enough? We'll create the facilities. We've got the facilities. We've got the capsulation. We could put it into capsules and give it to people and let them use this as a resource to handle stress.
Right.
And that's what we did. And that's how Stress Guardian came up. And I would suggest to most people, its best efficacy is to take 5 capsules, usually later in the day when that stress is starting to build up in the day. Yeah, 5 capsules.
But I mean, later in the day, huh? Not first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I like it later in the day when you start to feel that, okay, I've pushed it to the limit, and you take that 2, 3 in the afternoon or something like that. Mm-hmm. You take that. It's rejuvenating. And then the other thing I would add to that is
it doesn't affect sleep. Doesn't affect sleep.
Doesn't impact sleep. In fact, if anything, it will enhance it. Mm-hmm. I would suggest using that, couple caps of magnesium, and if you can, go for a 10 to 15 minute walk in nature. And one of the great things that I think people have forgotten, they think about when you were really in a fight with a brother or sister or sibling or your cousin or a friend or whatever, and you're at that kid as a thing. One of the things that you do is to diffuse the situation is you literally walk away.
Right.
It's an untenable situation. And I think we forget that was just something that we did as humans throughout history. Okay, this is a conflict. I am going to get away. I'm going to remove myself from the conflict, and I'm going to walk. Now, when you're walking, especially in nature where you have an expansive, that reduces the amygdala stress, the emotional center in the brain. So Jocko Willink talked about this in a recent podcast as when they were doing patrols, and basically patrols in this, in Fallujah, where they were in the fighting, was basically, we're going to drive around in some armored vehicles until people try to pick us off. Talk about stressful. Snipers, gunmen, missiles, all that stuff trying to blow things up, blow you up. And so it's extremely stressful because you're just waiting to react. And then what he started to train the guys is to not think of a reaction force, is to be thinking, we're on the lookout for these people, so that you were moving forward that would alleviate some of that amygdala stress. So for us, ambulant movement by literally walking forward actually reduces the stress that we feel. So if you do nothing else, do that. And then you can always add Stress Guardian or magnesium. Magnesium, I believe, is the miracle mineral out there as far as North Americans, our exposure to electromagnetic pollution, our inability to get enough magnesium out of our diets, and the high calcium component that we have that's also disruptive to our dietary regulation. Those 3 things, I think, will help people cruise through the holidays. So before you go to that big Christmas dinner, take 5 caps of Stress Guardian before you go have the turkey, and Uncle Louis will be less infuriating than he was before.
You'll give off a vibe. The mushrooms will make you give off a vibe when he doesn't want to mess with you. It's funny. I think that the reason people get stressed out, this is my own estimation, is they go back to see family, and most of us, we left home to find ourselves.
Yeah.
But when you go home, you fall right back into that family dynamic. Like, your brother, who was always the ball breaker, is still a ball breaker. He doesn't respect you. You go back to that. And so, anything that can give you the edge not to react. It's really just about not reacting. Not letting what they say make you change your physiological or mental state. That's all.
Yeah, I like it. One of the things I remember when I made that switch, because I go back home every year. This will be my 51st year in a row. So I'm gonna beat Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather retired at 50-0. I'm going for 51-0 here. So I'm really excited. I go home every year. And I remember the first 10 years was really tough. And the second 10 years were manageable. But as I started to leverage some of the technology we developed by BIOptimzers and the things we advocate, that we just talked about here, I now find the whole thing amusing and entertaining. So what used to just send me off, or what used to be just tolerable, I now find kind of endearing and amusing. I want to, when my grandmother would go off on the thing, and people used to wonder, because my grandmother, she's not with us anymore, but she was a tough lady. She had a hard life, and she was hardcore. And she'd start going off, and how like you get the older person that's just, they're just, there's no couthness about it. No filter. They're just riffing. And I found it entertaining, because I was in this unstressed place, and I would go in and I'd say, you're right, Grandma, it's all good, and let's get rid of it. And I'd be right with her. You just give it to him, Grandma. And I am having, and she'd break out laughing. She'd break out laughing because I was able to come and disrupt the state, because I just wasn't impacted by it. I just would go along, and he said, you give it to him, Grandma. You just let him have it, right? And then she'd start to realize, okay, I'm out of control here. And then that was it. And it's amazing how quickly you can dissipate those things if you're in a resource state.
What was her name?
Ethel.
Ethel what?
Her name was Ethel McNutt, of all things. So with a handle like that, what do you expect?
All these years later, she was just mentioned.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. And she lived to be 96 years old, and didn't take any pills till maybe the last year or two of her life. So tremendous work ethic, kept working, was physically active the whole time, was bowling all the way up to near the end. And
when did your grandfather pass?
A couple of years ago. He was a few
so he
years
was still
later.
alive.
He was still alive. He was younger than her. She was 6 years her senior. And so he lived to about the same age. He lived about the same age. And so had good models on that side of the family about staying active, being physically fit, eating healthy, natural food. They all had gardens. They all grew their own food. And, I really saw their health go down when they started going into more of the factory foods. When they moved to the home, where they went to the seniors building, and they started eating more of the processed foods, the chemical foods, it wasn't there like that. That's when I saw the drop off in their health, like systematically, very, very quickly. It wasn't. And I got a lady on our street. She's from I grew up. She's 100. I had 3 centurions on my street, and there's one still left. She's 106 years old. 106.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It is. It's truly remarkable. And what's really interesting, she's got problems with her feet, and she can't move around really. But what's really inspiring about her is she's always has something to look forward to. She's looking forward to the next party, the next social gathering, that she's going to make some mittens from one of the great-great-grandchildren. She, no matter what's going on, she has this social structure about, isn't it great? Isn't this awesome? I got things to do.
That's wonderful.
And I think that's a real part of aging. So you're not going to be with everybody during the holidays forever. And, you want to resolve those, unresolved aspects of humanity. I think is really nice to do that and to get those things worked out. And I'm going to go see some family members this year that I haven't seen, because we were excluded from I broke into Canada with, I have a bunch of legal and medical components, which wasn't easy during those times to get through the border and that. But where a lot of people were, of course, we're not allowing family members to get together because of the COVID restrictions, and were you jabbed or were you not jabbed and all that sort of stuff. And so we're going to see some people that I haven't seen in a number of years because of the personal and political restrictions. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah. So I don't know who this is, but they asked, someone said on Facebook, I thought you were done, meaning me. Because I have one more show after this to do, and we haven't even booked it yet. It's going to be a very, very interesting show. I sent Dr. Sean Baker a epigenetic biological age test and asked him if he would take it. And he said, yeah, I'll take it, and I'll come on your show, and we'll break the news. So I thought that was interesting. So yeah, no, it's very close to my last show.
Sure. Yeah,
Tyson Johnson says, any proprietary blend of supplements makes me question it. Stress Guardian doesn't appear to be any different. Please explain. So everybody is suspicious of proprietary blends because those who read studies about different supplements, they'll find out, well, they didn't use enough of this. But isn't proprietary blend also to protect your product, so someone just doesn't come and knock it off?
Yeah, great question, Tyson, and I appreciate the skepticism. I think it's warranted to separate efficacy from marketing integrations. So first and foremost, people have to understand the regulatory environment that we live in. So all nutrition products fall under the Food and Drug FDA, right? They control everything. They have no business controlling the nutrition industry, but they do anyways. And in the medical industry, you create a molecule patent or whatever that you create a patent around, and that patent is protected for 20 years. And that allows you to fund a bunch of resource, produce a product, and then protect it over time, that everybody has to either you get exclusivity or people have to buy it from you if they want to distribute it to a wider group of models. And, that's great. But what's happened when you put that into the nutrition industry, what now happens is that if you produce a combination or new components of products, you have no protection of it. As soon as that comes out, anybody can access what you're able to do. The other thing, there's two parts to this. The second part is that you have no way of knowing, unless you have a lab, to the efficacy of the individual raw ingredients that you're using in the first place. And I'll get into that in a minute. So we're subject to a regulatory body that is built around patentable products that you run investment money in the pharmaceutical industry, which that politicization prevents us doing our stuff. And then what happens as a nutritional company, let's say you want to do legitimate research, you have to fund your own research. Now, the problem with that is that people will say, well, of course they produced something that said that this was good because they did their own research, because the only way you get the research done, because they're not going to do the research in the university setting. So we've been subjected to BIOptimzers for decades, and we understood the problem. So a number of years ago, we were able to contract the International Birch University in Bosnia. There's a microbiology lab. And now, if you understand funding at university, there's a state university, and then there's a private university. Now, this private university, which had a pretty good microbiology lab, we were able to say, hey, you know what? If you guys can run a bunch of experiments, both on raws and on the things that we're able to do, would you be able to do that? And they said, sure, but we need this equipment. I said, well, what happens if we invest and buy all this equipment? Could you and your students, and we're talking PhDs and running it and master students doing the testing, could we test all our raws? Can we test what probiotics work? Can we test these things? And we were able to do that. And here's the part that's really fascinating. And I'm expanding on this because I want you to get this, Tyson, because it's an important component for the long-term health of the industry. So what was interesting is most product companies, they get a lab assay that says it has this percentage of, whatever ingredient, and that's it. So unless you have the capacity to look at the microbiome and then see if it's getting through that and getting into the cell, and there's technology, microscopes that are available to do it, and there's an InfoGest test, and there's a variety of different components that allows you to recreate this in lab, you have no idea if you're, 95% herb or 50% this or 25% is actually efficacious. And so when we started testing not just components to whether it got into, but the efficacy of the raw ingredients, well, guess what? It's all over the place. You'll see an ingredient that says it's 100% this. There's no active components in it. You'll see something else that's 10% this. There's no active components. And then when you put these in combination, they're not necessarily intuitive. There's sometimes aspects that are that don't gel together properly. They create interactions that make the product actually don't work. That doesn't work at all. I can think of, for example, using some algae oil with certain enzymes completely screws up the algae oil, becomes a toxin. Right? That's a great example of that. You think, oh, I add some lipase, I put this algae oil, then it should work. Well, there's some that works and some that doesn't, and some algae oils that do work and some that doesn't. It's all over the place. And so when you see variance in studies, you're going to see, well, we used this nutrient or this stuff, and we tested, 12, 15, 20, 30, 100 subjects, whatever that is, and we got this result. And then someone else does the same study on the same stuff and produces a different result. Our theory is that oftentimes it's the efficacy of the product itself, the quality, the active components, the sub-agents that are involved. So when we put a proprietary blend, we have to, and number one, to protect the product. But here's the great news with BIOptimzers. Unlike most companies that are just relying on lab assays and systematized formulators, we're actually proving the efficacy of the products in a university lab before we turn it out. And the reason why we've been on the Inc. 5000 the last 2 years in a row is one of the fastest growing companies in all of America and one of the fastest nutritional supplement company growing in the world is that we make products that work. We make products that create an effect, a somatic effect on the body. They've been proven in a research facility. And yes, of course, we're using a proprietary blend. We explained the regulatory reasons why that is. To create some protection. But even if somebody took our entire formula and tried to duplicate it, it's almost impossible to create a product as efficacious as us, because if you've got, I think there's around 17 herbs in that particular product that have been put together by a master in Chinese medicine. But we've selected the raws from every possible raw company that we could get a hold of and tested each one of those ingredients. So if you get a 10% improvement here, a 50% improvement here, a 5% improvement here, 20% improvement, you're multiplying all those benefits across the substrate. So you have a product that looks like give an example of magnesium breakthrough as a good example. Magnesium breakthrough with the 7 types of magnesium in it is uptaken by red blood cells 33% more than any singular or combination of magnesiums on the marketplace today. I'm very confident to say that because I've seen it in the lab. I've seen it in the university. I know that. So now you as a consumer don't know any of that. You have to take me at face value. And that's a problem because there's a lot of charlatans out of there. There's a lot of fly-by-night companies out there. There's a lot of people that are looking to hear the latest Huberman podcast and throw out whatever ingredient he's talking that's going to boost your whatever by 800% or 1,000% or whatever. 1,000% from what? Like boost your testosterone by 800%. I saw something. Well, what was the guy's testosterone to start with? Because if I boosted my testosterone by 800%, I would fail the drug test when I go at the Mr. Olympia, the natural Mr. Olympia. I'd fail the test because I'd be over the legal limit. It's like they'd say, this guy's on something. Of course, that's not going to do that. So you have to be able to sort through legitimate research versus sensationalism. And I'm not trying to cast aspersions at Huberman. I think he's doing good research and he's an integrous guy trying to do things. But to get people's attention, you got to create these outrageous headlines that hook people so they'll take the time to look at what you're talking about. And instead of that, what we've done is, we got marketing. We do this stuff. We say, hey, look, any of our products, if you try it and you don't like it, it doesn't work for you, we just give you your money back. And you got a whole year to get it back. And we do that because I was a kid reading muscle magazines when I was 15 years old. And I'd save up every cent to buy a can of the worst tasting, worst mixing protein from Joe Weider or one of the people advertising this because I thought that would help me build muscles. And I remember going through disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. It kind of changed when I think EAS came out with, creatine and all those sort of things. Like the industry changed a little bit. We started to get some things that actually worked, but most of it was just a mishmash of maybes in a bottle. That's what it was. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I don't know, but we'll get your money this month, and next month you'll try something else, and next month you'll try something else. And the reality is, I never forgot what that felt like when I bought a product that didn't work and felt ripped off. And I said, Matt and I, as founders of the company, says, we're always going to have a company where no matter what we do, we back it up by science, by sophistication, and by 100% money back guarantee for everybody. And when you call, we have our largest department is customer service. We have people that will handle text, email, chat, phone calls, whatever, round the clock service during the week, almost round the clock service during the weekend. And you talk to a real person and we solve your problem. It's just really that simple. So that's the whole industry.
Look, you give 100% guarantee. If you don't like it, send it back. They get their money back. So you can test drive it for 4 months and make your own decision on whether or not it's worth it. Knight Rider, when you were talking about why you couldn't see your relatives last year, or was it last year before? He says a Knight Rider, I'm assuming it's a he. He said Australia, they were like Nazis down there. I remember, I felt bad for the Australian people during COVID.
Canada was the same. Canada was very similar to the Australians. It was horrible.
I mean, they didn't treat the people with any dignity whatsoever. That's what it came down to. They were horrible, locking them in their homes and having police outside. I mean, that was madness. I don't know much about Australia. Canada was like that?
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was. There was provinces that you couldn't come in and out of. My parents lived in a province that you could not go in and out of. They would call it the bubble. You couldn't go in. I was held up by agents at the borders coming in. I had the police visit my house at Christmas time in a little village in New Brunswick to see if I was actually there after coming into the thing. I was kept off certain planes that were of Canadian origin. I had to get U.S. planes because they weren't subject to the same stuff. And it got worse afterwards. I had friends that lost their access to bank accounts. They were publicly slandered. The news media was encouraging the shaming of people who did not get vaccination as if this was thing. So what we saw was a consistent campaign to demonize people who decided they didn't want to take an experimental gene therapy. So I can resonate with that.
Which, by the way, we were all right. I love the fact that they humiliated us and they treated us like scum because we were threatening that. Now, all the science shows not only the damage from the vaccine, but that you're like 5 times more likely to continue to get COVID for the rest of your life now because because the way the vaccine works on the immune system. It's like, I've heard that there are hospitals looking for non-vaccinated people to donate blood.
Oh yeah, it's a real problem on so many different levels. The magnitude, not to mention the financial consequences, because of all the printing the money and staying people at home. You're wondering why mortgage rates are soaring through the roof. And people last month in Canada, 2 million people hit the food bank in Canada. The working poor. We have nurses and people in good paying jobs that are living out of their cars because they can't find homes. The cost of living for a house has doubled and tripled in some areas for people. So what used to get a home 25 years ago, these are all part of political policies.
They want people to own nothing. Like that guy, Klaus
Schwab
said.
Yeah, Klaus Schwab.
Minister. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. We'll own everything. You know what? I don't want to talk about that because those days are over. Look, Sergio says, am I shutting the podcast down? Yes, the Superhuman Radio website will stay up. All of the advertisers, campaigns, ads, They will all stay up. Everything will still be there. Yes, but you'll still be able to get BIOptimzers there. Don't worry about credit. Just go buy the product. That's all. You know what? These guys stood by me, and my attention started getting diverted to Gun Leash. And not once did they break my balls. And I know that. I recognize that. I know that. It didn't go unnoticed by me. So just know that. And the last one, Tyson, I think we're going to just put the banner ad up for the product again so that people watching can get it. Well, let me just see. It's different now. Everything's different because I'm not used to using the. Okay. The product is called Stress Guardian. You can get a 10% discount if you go to either shrnetwork.biz/BIOptimzers or go right to BIOptimzers website, which is stressguardian.com, and use the code superhuman. These are good products. You know what the funny thing is? I was listening to myself talk when I was thinking about Tyson's question. And what I was thinking, like, when you trust a company, you trust that you know, when a company's been around as long as BIOptimzers and has developed the number of, you know, probably millions of trusted customers, and then you're worried about them taking a prop blend and not putting enough pixie dust in it, why would they sacrifice their reputation that they've built over decades by selling a product that doesn't work the way they say it does? And on top of that, they give you a 1-year guarantee. You don't like it, send it back. Send it back. So, I mean, there's a lot to be said for companies that are still here.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of my mentors said that excellence is its own reward. And, you know, we've hit excellence as athletes. We've hit excellence in the business world, and we've hit excellence in the nutritional world. And that's not an accident. It's a process. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, too, you know, I'm still that 15-year-old guy that was saving up all my money to buy the next supplement to hopefully help give me a little bit more of an edge. And I don't ever forget that. I don't ever forget that. You know, more money and stuff doesn't make any difference in my life right now. I'll drive the same car. I'll eat the same. I eat beans and rice every day and salad and really boring food. And I go out and splurge on Saturday night UFC. I'll have some chips and some social stuff or whatever, some cheese and crackers or whatever, and have my friends over. And that's it. So, but what makes me excited? What makes me excited is exactly what you've represented on 18 years on Superhuman Radio. And that is supporting the people who are committed to advancing the capacity of humans to move into the category what we call superhuman, to be developed capacities outside the normal representation of the general population. I've been into that my whole life. I'll be into it my whole life because it's exciting. It's really fun.
Really rewarding.
We were with a kid that's working for our company. He's 24 years old. I don't know what his IQ is. It's something insane. We were taking him through brain training because he recently, at 24 years old, created a molecule that's never existed before for us.
Really?
Yes, and that molecule is going to be released. We are going to be able to patent that, and we're excited about that because what it's going to be able to do. But here's a kid, 24 years old, and I'm listening to this kid speak, and I'm going, this is mind-numbingly smart, right? And we met him through our partnership at that Birch International University. Here's some guy in a little place where he's obviously got super skills. In a place that doesn't have the resources or availability or directions and stuff that's available to a lot of us here in the United States. And he's so hungry, and here's an opportunity that our company has. I don't know what this kid is going to do over the course of his life, but it's going to be something amazing. Yeah, and for him to have an experience where he can make some money, develop some stuff, and really advance his own unique and sublime capabilities. It's exciting to have those type of people working with BIOptimzers. Yeah. I'm not a genius. I don't know all the answers. I don't have all the, I'm here to say that. But what I am committed to, and what Matt's committed to, my business partner, is cultivating an environment that allows geniuses to flourish and shares that integrations with the population around the world through people like you, Carl, who have been advancing this cause your entire life, both on an individual level and on a communication level.
We are sapiophiles. We love, but sapiophile speaks to sexual attraction, but the truth is we love smart people.
Yeah.
Like I love you put me in a room with some moderately intelligent people who are original thinkers and can easily conceptualize, and the hours go past, because like Joel Green and I, that's how we met. We started talking to each other, and all of it, and like we were bouncing off the walls. We went to a think tank that Ron Penna put on at Quest back in the early days.
Wow.
And I fell in love with Joel. Like, I can say that. Like, I love that guy. I love hanging out with him. I don't get to hang out with him enough. I used to love to do shows with him. But we see that. Most people are intimidated and feel alienated when they're around smart people. And it's not because they're dumb. That's not why. It's because they are probably frustrated that they can't talk fluidly with these people. But if they stick around them, their brain opens up and they start to,
yes.
Intelligent people are conceptualizers to the point where sometimes people get annoyed by listening to this. Like, what are you talking about, these abstract subjects that I don't get? I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, it's so much fun just to be around people who back in the day, we were nerds.
Yeah. It's essentially why Joe Rogan has the most popular show in the world, because he's curiously interested in people doing unique things. There's a beginner's mind that he has, and he's a very smart guy, but he's not trying to be a smart guy. He's just trying to ask questions to understand. And so I'm like that. I feel the same way. I'm certainly not at the skill level of Joe Rogan or any near
he's
popularity. But that curiosity he has, I think, is really fantastic. It's like, well, what does this stuff do? And like, how does that work? And how does that apply? It's simple questions, but you can go a long way with smart people by asking simple questions.
Right. And pulling from threads, right?
That's right.
We call that rabbit holes, right? Those are rabbit holes. You start asking the right questions.
Yes.
Oisin Day.
Yes.
I actually got the name right the last show I'm doing, one of the last shows. Said it's great to see us both one last time before the podcast wraps up. Wade, any plans for EU distribution? The UK one works out to be more expensive than before.
Yes,
Brexit.
Indeed. Yeah, I've been aware of the challenge, and I've got some great news for you, Olson. That is that starting in January, the new EU website will be up.
Wow.
And you will be our distributor there is shipping off continental EU, and you will gain all of the benefits of reducing all the taxes and everything that are going on to there. I've been working with these guys for several years. They're extraordinary individuals. I visited them twice this year in Europe, first in London and then in Amsterdam this year. We solidified the arrangements. They've got all of the stuff on point. They're great marketers. They're Integris people, and they will be launching the EU site in January of this year. So just it's under a month away. And our products are going to be available on the EU site to everybody, because we have so many people in the EU that are trying to access, and we're on the premium side. Tyson, that's an easy question.
I want to get this last question in. Tyson probably doesn't realize you have magnesium breakthrough, but he's asking if you like blends better than one form of magnesium.
Yeah, all our research has indicated that the right blend, and we found 7 distinct types of magnesium, was able to produce a better results in the uptake of blood cells. So our improvement was 33% over any singular or multifaceted magnesium supplement on the market. And that's why Mag Breakthrough is now leading the growth of magnesium in all of US retail now.
Wow, that's a big score, because so many people are vying for that market. It's ridiculous. Yeah. I'm going to put this up one more time for Tyson, because if you use dude. I did it again. I forgot to turn that off. If you use the shrnetwork.biz/BIOptimzers, that page has just about every product that they make, including Stress Guardian and including Mag Breakthrough.
Yeah, or you just go SHR10 on the on any
on the code, on anything you buy.
Code. Yeah.
So that's it. I don't think we have anything else to talk about, do we?
Well, other than Carl, it's an honor and a pleasure to be on the show. I can't wait to come over to visit you in not too near the future. I want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and happy holidays. And I'm excited for Gunleash and what you've created here for safety, security, and responsible use and the protection of our First Amendment so that you can alleviate all of the fear that's out there, the unwarranted fear, and some of it's warranted because of some of the laws that are out there. You've provided a very excellent solution to a very big problem, while allowing us to maintain our freedoms from tyranny. Because essentially, that is the right to bear arms is the only thing that's stopping us from total tyranny right now.
Yeah, and more 54% of American households now have a gun in it.
Yes,
think about
and so
it. The first time ever in history that the number of households with guns outnumbered the number of households without guns.
So, and you've created a way to responsibly protect people from that, and that's a great service to mankind. So I wish you tremendous success in that. I know it's going to be successful. You're doing great work, and I really appreciate
sales are actually trickling in. I was worried for a while but the truth is our social media campaigns haven't started, so I'm happy. I'm very, very happy.
Yeah, well, we'll follow up. There's a couple places I would put your promotions on. You probably know this, but I got a few ideas.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for watching and listening today. Don't forget to help support the sponsors that made this show last the number of years that it's lasted. Over 18 years, I can say now. Okay, thank you very much, and let me finish what I'm doing here. There we go. Oh. Forgot how to do it. Bye, everybody. Bye.